You see, that you want to actually achieve a certain kind of output. And then here, how does this one influence? So we find that certain kind of things actually stands in between monitoring and governance. That is where we are trying to actually focus today. Again, a good governance itself. Now, good governance itself. If you look at the two gentlemen standing, you see, one is bad governance, and then the other one is good governance. So when we are talking about, when we are talking about good governance, it means there is bad governance, automatically. And then, here, the two guys actually are trying to show up. Here we have, good governance, dressed, you can see, like, rule of law, transparency, you can see, like, and then here we have, a bad governance, things like inefficiency, red tape, maladministration, corruption, secrecy. So you can see, like, this one. And then, if you look at the two guys, in terms of appearance, you see, you can actually tell from the picture, that, a bad governance, even the picture itself tells, you see, the guy is shambolic, you see, is not well dressed, you see. The same applies on the ground. If you are saying, bad governance, it means, things that we see on the ground are not properly, arranged. There are a lot of, things that are, good. And then, bad governance, if you look at the person, you can see, like, the way, the person looks like, well dressed, it means, on this particular side, if you follow, if it was, two roads, if you follow one road, this is what you are likely to get. And if you follow the other road, this is what you are likely to get. So it is you as an individual with, instinct. If your instinct tells you that, you have to, kind of, options, this one and this one. Where do you take the route? Is it this one or is it that one? So this one actually, an illustration of whether good or bad, is something that you can actually really, choose, or you can actually, if you choose, if you opt, for this, then your mind should tell you that this is what you are actually likely to be, and this is what you are likely to be. So those are some of the preliminary kind of understanding. Now, governance and good governance itself. You see, governance and good governance itself. Normally, people tend to go, in the literature, scholars, and even other, academicians or even practitioners, in the institutions. Normally, they use it interchangeably. People tend to refer governance and good governance as the same. You see, they are actually, being increasingly used, but they are actually trying to look at it as they are same. But these two terms normally, apart from saying they are being used as the same, but if you use in a different context, they bring a different kind of understanding. You see, for instance, we have corporate governance. If we read corporate governance, you will find that the elements that appears in the corporate governance are different from the maybe international governance. It carries the elements that the elements are different. And therefore, the word governance or good governance depends on the context of use. You see, just like here, we are actually going to see it appearing in the monitoring and the evaluation. The way it appears in the monitoring and the evaluation is actually quite different from how it appears in the corporate. You see, because when you go and study corporate governance, there it looks on how best the board can actually, take on, ensure that, the corporate actually survives. So that one is different from what is happening, in the monitoring, or what is happening in the government, or what is happening in the other, national or international, even in the local government. When you are talking about, governance or good governance in local government, actually is quite different. So it depends on the context, on how you use, the word, and then, that one can actually be translated to the. Now, what is it now? The concept of, governance itself. And you really have to come in mind that people have defined extensively. You see, people have defined extensively. If you go through the literature, we come through a million kind of definitions of governance. And some people tend to actually, confuse, just like the word good and the governance. But also, some people tend to confuse, governance and government. You see, when you talk about governance, people refers to government, and when some people talks about government, they mean governance. You can see, that confusion. It is not confusion, but it is only that people tend to use it interchangeably, assuming that the word itself has the same meaning. When you refer to government or to governance, which is actually not. There is actually a difference when you are actually referring to government and governance. Yes? Somebody with a question? Okay. So, most of them, when people, when they refer to governance as a government, normally they tend to look at governance is like the exercise of authority. That when a person uses power to actually make certain kind of decision, so people say this is governance, which is actually yes, it can be, but in a normal circumstances it is different. Governance and government, they are two distinct terms. Of course they are thematically close, but they are different, when it comes to usage. And it's not only people we have seen, even academicians also. If you read the literature, you find that they tend to actually also indicate. They write, when they write in their books, they tend to actually indicate governance as government. However, when it comes to government, government is actually the institution, the administrative machinery. You see, for a decision making, affecting policy, implementation of a different kind of strategies and all the manner of activities. But the quality of implementation of those activities, that is what governance is. You see, when the government does A, E, O, U, that is government. But how does that work? The extent to which the work is being done, that's where governance comes in. You can actually refer as good, as I said in the beginning, or bad. You see, the way one executes the activities. Just like when you are doing these kind of your activities, you can call it whatever name, but the manner in which you carry your own activities, that's where governance comes in. Whether it's good or bad. There are people who are very smart. You can see in terms of doing things, the way they carry out their activities, their personal activities. The governance of the activities are of a certain quality, and they ensure that they achieve that kind of standards they have set. But there are people who are you just take whatever. So the same you can actually refer. So when you get that kind of a picture that you can carry your activities to a certain kind of standards, a certain kind of level. You see, you operate within a certain kind of stage or reality, or I don't know whatever you can put it, but that is where governance is. How do you do it? The manner in which you do it. You see, that's where governance is. So government is just a name given to a certain kind of entity which exercises a certain kind of. So it is actually not correct when you are actually referring government as governance. It's only that the manner in which activities that requires to be regarded as governance, many of them are happening in the government. That's why people refer to the government as governance. They take it for granted. But in normal circumstances, governance is just the extent to which, but the ability to exercise the power to do something is actually extended in government. So and we have seen authority as in terms of government to exercise power, but the way you do things is actually governance. So the term governance normally is there are certain kind of dynamics, you see, and elements you can see which are actually standing which relates to actually government and citizens. That's where governance is. When it comes to a normal definition now here I can just tell you that I would like when you are answering your question, for instance, when you are answering your question during the test, you see, it is good when you come up with a formal definitions. There are people, when they start attempting a question, they go straight. They don't mind of, giving, trying to actually explain what does, the term that carries the question means. But it is good. You don't need to copy somebody's definition like this one. But any kind of, definition that actually relates, it's good. Now, when it comes to governance, a lot of people have provided formal definition. And it is good even you, at your level, you must have a formal definition of things. That will enable you to actually understand the whole thing that you are trying to learn. If you are, not taking seriously in terms of defining, it will be very hard for you to actually come up with a kind of understanding of the, the field that you are trying to actually, So here, I will just, give you few kind of definition, given by, different kind of institutions. You can actually go and read for yourself, what governance is. Who has provided a simple definition? Some people have actually given almost a paragraph of a definition. Some other people have given, so you just, go and read. By reading, you come across, understanding what governance is. By comparing different kind of definition, it becomes easy for you to actually understand the thing deeper. Because the definition actually are not uniform. It only depends on one's understanding of the issue, and that's where this one also actually is the same. So here we have institutions like World Bank has provided a long kind of definition of governance, and then we have OECD, Organization for Economic and Cooperation Development. This is a certain kind of organization of these European unions. These countries, it comprises like 52 countries. Now, also, they have actually, played a very good role in terms of, dealing with good governance. Because, in fact, when you trace the history of corporate governance, not only governance, corporate governance, you will find that the OECD actually played a very significant role in terms of establishment of, governance that we know today. Because of, there was a certain kind of collapsing of corporations in Europe. And therefore, they actually came up, with, a kind of, a research trying to understand why is it that, these kind of crises actually happened. And then, through Cadbury report, they came up with, suggestion of trying to actually say, let us actually have something like, governance in place. And that's why you can see, they carry a very good kind of, reputation in terms of understanding of governance. And therefore, they have also given their understanding of what is governance is. So you can actually go and read, what they are trying to actually say. If you look at the World Bank definition, you will find that, they define governance in terms of institutions, in terms of, involvement of citizens, in terms of, exercise of rights. You see? So those are some of the elements that appears in their definition. The same applies to actually, OECD. They are trying to say, governance in terms of political, economic, and administrative authority. That's why sometimes people, if you say authority, it means, the same like, government thing. That's why people tend to, go straight and say, oh, governance is just government, which is actually not. So when you come up with different kind of definition, you will find that, there is a difference, a big difference in terms of how they define. And therefore, from there, you will be able to come up with your own understanding what governance is. So, if you look at these definitions and others, I will not actually, give you, some of them here. I've just given you the two. Go and read, you will get it. But if you look, even the definition given by other scholars, you will find that, most of them actually, they look at the process, governance, and they look at governance as a process. You can see, just, this one, exercise, when you are exercising, it is a process, it's not an event. Exercise of, authority. It means, certain kind of activities are carried out. And activities cannot be carried out in a single day. It is, a series of, so how do you do it? You can see this one. And then even this one, also, it is a mechanism, a process and institution. So it is a process. They go straight into a process. So even when we were to have other definitions, we will find that actually they fall into the same trap. So when you look at the definitions, normally, governance actually is being regarded as a process. It means certain kind of activities are being done, a series of activities. So governance is not an event that you get out there and, you see, hey, governance here, no. It is something that is being done, a process, over time. And therefore, and then again, governance is being regarded in terms of power. You see, power not necessarily authority. You see, you can have power without authority. You can have authority without power. Of course, in rare circumstances. You see, majority of people with authority have power. But you can have power without authority. We have seen people like, strong politicians. They don't have authority, but they have power to influence a certain kind of decisions. They can even tell their, followers to do this and do that. You can see? So, that one actually, but, authority is much more legitimate, given by, a certain kind of, so, when it comes to, governance, it means even people without authority, they can have power to influence certain kind of decisions. That's where, when we will come to see how good governance comes into monitoring and evaluation, we will see that even people with power without authority can actually influence decision, in the monitoring process. And then again, to manage, another element that comes out is management of affairs, collective affairs of community, nation, I don't know, whatever, society, whatever, or organization. You see? So, you have element of process, you have element of power, and then, collective kind of management. Because you can see, it means governance is not, it cannot be done by a single individual. If that was the case, then monitoring and evaluation would not need governance, because we have managers who actually run these kind of projects. They have been appointed with a contract, and then carry out these kind of duties. At the end of the day, we just need a result. You see? So why governance, by the way? If at all, it is not a collective kind of a process. So it's only that because monitoring and evaluation cannot be done by a single individual, with authority or with whatever power, that's why things like governance actually comes in. So we find that definitions of governance actually have those kind of elements, the main 3 elements. You can dig deeper and come up with other kind of elements, but for this time around, governance actually have those kind of elements, and I think as we go on, we'll be able to actually understand better. Up to there, a question, please. Is there anybody with a question? No. Okay. Let us now go to good governance. Of course, we saw, at the beginning, that picture of, bad and good. You see, if it is bad, then it looks like this. If it is good, it looks like this. You can see. But when it comes to academic purpose, what does good governance mean? You see, good governance means. So, in a normal circumstances, good governance actually has been linked to certain kind of variables, particularly dependent variables. You can see including performance, development, economic growth, and other, poverty alleviation, and all the stuff. Governance actually has been regarded as independent variable. I know you are actually now struggling with research proposal. We have independent and dependent variable. So governance normally is being actually treated as independent variable in the research or in whatever. And then it has been linked, it is being treated as independent variable simply because it has a certain kind of influence. It causes a certain kind of effects on a number of issues. That's why it is actually being linked to a certain kind of outcomes. And therefore, again, governance also is being actually good governance is being viewed as essential for functioning of society. You see, apart from saying you link it with, but any a functioning society normally is being linked to good governance. I don't know whether that one is true or not. You are researchers, you can actually conduct a research to see whether that one is good or it is true or not. And normally in terms of resource allocation, efficiency, and effective use of resources, efficiency, service delivery, it has been actually linked to those kind of output. And therefore, when we are actually studying, good governance, it should actually bear in our mind that there is actually a link between good governance and certain kind of outputs. However, when it comes to a formal definition, remember those definitions that we were actually going through, they were definitions of governance, but there are also definition of good governance. You see, so not confused. I may come up with in the test, with a define the following elements: governance, good governance. If you are not prepared, you can actually come with the same definition. So so you should be able to make a difference. So United Nations actually provided a definition of good governance. You see, says governance is good when resources are allocated and managed correctly, and other elements here in between. You can see all those kind of elements. But OECD also defined a good governance as you can see, like,